Hello YouTube, we are back with another video. This time I'm super late. This event actually ended like a week ago. I recorded a run of this here 6-man content. This is the I guess, would you call this the beta when it's the second one? It's the beta. But this is a failed run, obviously, as you can see from the length of the video. But immediately after this, I did another one using this exact same team, and I ended up clearing, but it turns out I forgot to hit the record button, which is not so good. So, in order to hit as many major points as we can quickly, this fight it's actually really fun because there's a lot of mechanics going on. It's not super complex, but the way that they interact is really neat. So, basically, enemy B is the only one who has an orb, and the orb is, you can see that there's this blue aura around it. The orb is only up when it is in its other stance. It's got a red aura. The orb is HP regen, and it's actually super important because while the orb is up, the enemy, so B, has an HP poison aura on it that will take 30% of your max HP every turn. And if you drop below 30%, it will instantly kill you. So really important to have that up. You can tell when it's going to switch stances by the little hash marks you can see there on its HP. The other guy, so A, I don't even remember what that was for. I think it might have been a threshold attack. I'm not sure. But the only other mechanic that B really has is that eventually it becomes effectively immune to Brave and HP damage, while it's got one of its attacks that's queued up. A, on the other hand, has a couple of things that it does. You may recognize this as, I think this is the Afmal boss. So it switches stances between airborne and grounded. While it's in the air, it takes reduced damage. You can see that that guy is weak to what I'm doing here, but Lena is still hitting like noodles. It is resistant to magic damage. I don't remember if it's immune. I think it's just resistant. And when it goes to the ground, it will put down a number of framed debuffs on your party, which is why we brought Lena here, because she covers debuff immunity as well as, see, B's got that shield up now, so it's not going to take any damage. The Lena manages the debuff immunity as well as the HP regen. Right here, you can see both of the enemies have their little targeting thing. It's now flashing red. That means it's doing a very dangerous attack that will have an HP attack attached to it, so it's capable of killing whoever it's hitting. As you can see, I'm doing like no damage here, but that's not the point. We brought in Beatrix not for the damage, but for what we're going to do next. We're going to swap to Rem. And then Rem is going to swap to Beatrix. And then Beatrix is going to Paladin's Protection to keep us safe. And then when A goes from being grounded, or when it goes to grounded, excuse me, it will take regular damage from magic attacks, but it'll be resistant to physical. And then when it goes back into the air, it will put on, I think it's 5 or 6 framed buffs on itself as well as on B. And I think this is one of the buffs. It could be just a random effect that it has, but it'll start warping its turns after all of yours, kind of similar to Eldnarsh. So you definitely want to get that down as quickly as you can. So we've got Beatrix here for the Dispel, as well as the damage protection, as well as the HP regen. This fight it's actually really fun, and I definitely wish that this was the gold standard for content going forward. So far they haven't brought it back yet, but we will see if that happens. Definitely have my fingers crossed. As the fight progresses, I end up kind of naturally focusing on B more than A, just to largely because it doesn't have all of the restrictions on, oh, this is, you know, what kind of damage I can take or whatever. It's much easier to damage B than it is A. And there's no enrage mechanic, as far as I can tell. So on my successful run, basically what I did was I would damage them both, you know, kind of normally. But towards the end of the fight, I think, you know, A was at like 50% or something, and B was at 30. So I just finished off B, so I wouldn't have to deal with the HP regen so much. And then I just went to town on A. With my party, I believe what I did was I triggered Ramza's Burst Plus, so the finisher for the effect. I would buff up the party, go into Snow's, and trigger his burst effect, and then I started going ham with Seymour, who I think I ended up having his EX deal nearly 2 million damage on A when it was grounded. Might not have been grounded, actually, because Snow has the Ice Enchant, but I don't think we have Ice in Peril. I brought the Theodore Call here just to cleanse. As you can see, Beatrix doesn't have her debuff immunity up. This fight is really layered. The mechanics themselves aren't particularly complex, but they stack with one another really well, and it makes for a really enjoyable experience, particularly after the, you know, months of garbage time that we've had on JP, where, you know, you could just stomp through everything. I think one of the more egregious examples of this was the Irvine Intertwine Wills, where, you know, there's videos floating around out there of people soloing it with Cypher, which you should never be able to solo a Lufenia Plus with anybody. But in this case, the only mechanic for that fight was that the enemies had an HP shield and you didn't want them to get off their recast. But when you're dealing a ton of damage and the enemy doesn't have that much health, and you don't have to let them have a turn, and you can delay them on every single attack that you do, why even bother doing anything else, you know? So, that was poor fight design, and this is really good. Got the heal with Lena. We've got about a minute left of what's going to happen. You can see Beatrix hitting real numbers here. And we've got B that's sapping our health, which is not great. In the actual fight, I think I barely used Rem, but she was really clutch in the situations where I did, because it was all, you know, make sure that so-and-so gets that important turn, which Rem is a fantastic character now. But the primary party was some combination of Beatrix, Snow, and Lena, because Snow kind of just doesn't care about his hits being ignored or, you know, taking damage, so it was really helpful. Seymour is, oof, he's great. I'm really happy that he got such a good upgrade here. Like, B isn't even as low as it could be, so it's not triggering the next follow-up. Anyways, the video is beginning to wind down, so I would like to thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe for more content, and I will see you next time. Take care.